Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today I'm going to make a mock train cargo carriage out of these cement mixer pieces. Now before we get started, I just wanted to go over some of the inspiration for this mock idea. Basically at Christmas I was looking at some of the more Christmassy sets done by Lego, and one of those is the winter train set 10254, and I thought I might get that just to have a Christmassy theme to Brick Nottingham, or maybe just in the rest of the house somewhere as a sort of Christmas decoration. I think a lot of people do that, maybe going around the Christmas tree or something like that. And I watched a couple of reviews on it to see if I really wanted to go ahead. And one of the videos that I watched was by Robin Hull, and he showed it in all its glory. And it was then for the first time that I noticed that the Christmas tree, the little Christmas tree that's on one of the carriages, actually spins round kind of on its vertical axis like that, basically as the train goes round. So there's obviously a bit connecting the wheels going round all the way up with Technic pieces to the Christmas tree. And I just thought that was a fantastic idea. And although I didn't want to have necessarily a revolving Christmas tree permanently going around Brick Nottingham all year round, I did think of something else that could go round and round while the train was moving. So I said this idea to Robin, whose video I was watching, and he suggested the cement mixer idea actually. And I thought that was a brilliant idea, but I didn't really know if it existed. So I Googled it, looked for all the sort of possible images I could of some sort of concrete mixer or cement mixer train, and they do exist. So that was it then. I just knew I had to go ahead. So it turns out the first one of these was in 1903, according to Wikipedia, and that looks a bit different from what I'll be doing today, but nonetheless, it's clearly been around for a long time, this idea, and I think it's for when they're actually building train lines, so you can actually make the concrete base for foundations or gantries or something like that. And essentially a train can be equipped with a fully operational concrete plant. So having looked at model ones online and looking at real ones online, I thought I would go ahead and start building one. So the starting point was the drum itself, and I looked on Bricklink to see what drums were available for cement mixers, and there's only a couple really that fit the bill. One was the grey one, which is part of set 60018, but I already have that cement mixer as a road-based cement mixer, so that was kind of out. I didn't want it looking exactly the same, though that would have worked well. And the only other one that really worked was this blue one from Cement Mixer 7990 from 2007. And it's better than the others, partially because it's blue, which is a nice colour to use, and partially because it's got these striped stickers on, which is going to really accentuate it when it's going around. Because if it was all just plain colour without any sticker, you might not even be able to tell it was spinning, because it would just be a drum of blue. So great, so there's the principle and there's the drum. So we better get started, first of all, with the base. Right, so as I say, the first part of our cement mixing unit is the base, which is based on set 10254, Winter Train, the Christmas tree carriage. Now, you could use 1x16 Technic bricks. I didn't have any, but I've got loads of 1x8, so as long as I strengthen it, and I'm going to do that with a row of black plates, I can make my own 1x16 bricks. I still need this plate layer anyway, so it's not so much of a problem in interfering with the build. Right, so there's my two sides of my chassis. And the reason why I'm not using the wheel setups is because obviously I'm going to have to involve things like worm gears and things like that in order to make the power work. So I can't use normal sort of pairs of wheel pieces. So I'm using the individual wheels that you get with train sets. The engine car usually has a spare set of these wheels. And then I need to use some intricate parts from Technic, which I'm just learning about, if I'm completely honest. So these are all quite new to me, and I don't know their names. But anyway, there's quite a few different brackets. So the first thing to do is to get a 4-long axle and put it through this peculiar shaped piece. And this is the piece that's going to help us harness the motion from the wheels and turn it into a vertical turning action. So there we are, get that about halfway. So that's that. And then we're going to do the same with this one, except this one just doesn't have that extra bit of bracket. It could do, but it doesn't need it. So we've got that sort of setup as well. Okay, and then we can piece it all together. So in the second hole, we need our, sorry, not in the second hole, in the fourth hole, we need our setup. And we're connecting the two setups with this 7-long axle piece, just so they hold each other very firmly in place. And we need to do that because otherwise the turning motion of the wheels might cause this piece to kind of, wobble about backwards and forwards. And by having it in this setup, you really can't push it up or push it down or force it into any old position other than where it is supposed to be, because it's very much held by all of these axle holes and this post and all the rest of it. So basically that is something that was part of that winter train set, and I've just replicated that with some very slight tweaks. Then we need our front set of wheels, and these will have the worm gear as part of them, which is this thing that will turn kind of like a cog on a axle. So put the wheel on, then that, then the other axle, other part of the chassis rather, and then we can hold it all in place with this wheel. And we want these wheels to be free spinning, so you don't want to get it too close. See, that's too close. It's a bit sort of stiff. We want it to be really loose. So I'll pull it off a little bit more. There we go. So you can really give it a good spin. And then the second set of wheels, also loose on the back. So we can't use the normal sort of pairs of wheels. That's too tight, as we said. And we can't make this carriage any longer than it currently is. So this is a 16 long bricks, as I said, and the wheels are recessed slightly in, so they're sort of making it kind of 14 between the wheels. And any wider than that, and it really wouldn't go around standard Lego corners, corner rails very well, because obviously these wheels don't have any turning element to them. Anything that's longer than that usually has bogies, which are the things that sort of pivot a set of wheels. And we can't use that here, because if this thing was pivoting, then our worm gear would pivot as well, and it would lose contact with the bit that's going to be turning everything. So it's got to be a rigid frame. This is the biggest rigid frame we can do without it really starting to scrape and complain. So essentially that gives us the limit of what space we've got to work with. But there is our chassis. Next, just a bit more bricks to give it some strength. So we've got some plates, and I've just decided to use dark bluish grey as variation. And our first one's to kind of brace the two sides of the chassis together. Very simple. Now we'll need buffers. So this is where they come on, normal magnetic buffers, one on each end, and then a row of black. Oh, no, that's slightly in the wrong place. There we go. So I'm doing 1x2s in the middle, then a gap of 2 on both sides before 1x4, for reasons that will become apparent very shortly. And then on each of the ends, I'm getting one of the corner plates just to sort of overlap the buffer piece on all four corners. Okay, so that's the next layer. Then for a bit of detail, I've got these bracket pieces that I got in that last haul. We can put two of those in the spaces that I left, giving us this sort of area to use the side of. And then I can put on a bit of detail. So this is mainly just to hide those sort of ugly Technic elements. There we go. And there's the one for the other side. So that doesn't interfere with the wheels, but still looks good. And that is the first phase of our build. On to bag 2. So the next stage is to take this bottom chassis and give it some superstructure, some of the sort of top, and give it some of the decor that's going to make it look good. So the first thing to add is some plates. Now we have to get the orientation of this right. So this is the end with all the gizmos on, with the worm gear and the upward coming axle. So part of the superstructure needs to be one of these Technic plates with the holes in, and obviously that needs to align perfectly with where our axle is going to go. So that goes over there, so you can still see all the way through there. So that's the most fundamental part. And then we can just fill in the rest with a 1x6, a 2x6, a 6x6, a 1x6, and then I can do the normal sort of train end. I've picked yellow just because it's a really sort of bright and contrasting colour. Kind of gives it a kind of workman feel, kind of like all big plant equipment. I'll just add a nice sort of yellow rim, and I've got these 1x4 tiles with the hazard stripe on, just to give it a bit more strength over these ladder pieces, to really hold them in place in case something should hit them. But also because, you know, it would have warning stripes, I think, because it's going to have a great big drum revolving on it after all. And then just so it, when the axle's coming through, it doesn't sort of stick on any of the studs, I've got one of these 2x2 round tiles with a hole in, and that can go obviously in the middle where our axle is going to come up. Then for the other end, similar sort of setup. So I've got another 6x6, another one of those end bits, two more ladders, two more 3x3s, 1x3s rather, and a couple of 1x3 tiles for reasons that will become clear soon. Right, so there we are. It's got a nice yellow sort of edging to it. I think it looks good. So that's the next stage. Then we need to start focusing on getting the axle up out of this hole and turning what is this sort of turning motion in a sort of horizontal way into a vertical direction. Now, I went through absolutely loads of different iterations to try and get this to work. And it took quite a while, but that's part of the design process. I'm not an expert by any means whatsoever in Technic. I'm barely aware of what parts exist and how to do very simple procedures. So if you're a Technic expert, you will probably think all the discoveries I made are very, very basic indeed. But anyway, it was all new to me and I enjoyed the process. I quite like learning about this sort of thing. So I was very happy with doing it that way. But the first way I tried was using a universal joint, because once I've got this vertical motion coming out of here, I need to turn it into the direction the drum's going to be going, because we don't want the drum going vertically up. That would look weird. And we don't want it completely horizontal, because that would be quite easy to do in a Technic way, but not I don't think that looks right. So we want to have it kind of tilted at the angle that you'd expect to see. And that's the way you'd need to be if you were keeping concrete or cement wet and turning around properly. So, how to do an angle? Well, I tried the universal joint, and what a universal joint is one of those, and basically it means that you can kind of turn a corner like that. So you can see it's still sort of turning whilst also going at a completely different angle. So I thought that I could use one of those. Now it turns out that when you go beyond, well, definitely beyond about 45 degrees, it stops working very well. You can see it's getting sort of stuck on itself. And if you have one of these, you can play with it and see that it works great at that sort of angle. Oop. At about 30 degrees. And then it really starts to get very clunky anything around 45, which means that if I did something like that, we would end up with the barrel being at about like that. And it kind of looks almost like a mortar or some sort of gun or something like that. And it's far too high. Not only is it far too high for aesthetics and how it looks, but it's also far too high to actually get under any of my bridges, my castle rock, the tram system, absolutely everything. So unacceptable, not good enough. So I had to think again. So I went about looking for other Technic pieces that could change an angle, and the next one I found was beveled gears. I found a couple more ideas after beveled gears, but when I started playing with bevel gears, I was very successful and got it to work straight away. So essentially, these are the way to go. Now, the way beveled gears work are they're sort of got slightly curved edges. So rather than just a normal set of gears having to be sort of dead on with each other and one's teeth interlocking with the others, basically with these ones, they can kind of interlock at strange angles. So they can still sort of interlock like that, for example, and you can see that my finger can get caught in between the teeth. So that's the concept, and that is what worked. So essentially I need a beveled gear. It's all black on black, it's quite hard to see, but you can see that, I hope. I need a beveled gear there, and therefore I've got a Technic axle with a stopper on. I can put that like that, so that keeps it permanently in the right place. And then I use one of these very small cogs to push on the bottom, and now it is linked with my worm gear. So you can see if I turn the wheels very slowly, that little cog moves, and so does our beveled gear on the top. Ah, fantastic. So I don't know if you can see that moving. In fact, it's not moving. There we are. If I put a bit of weight on it, it is moving. Very good. So that is our power system sorted. Now the next thing I want to do is build kind of the hinge setup that's going to hold the drum in place. So I'm going to need a few Technic pieces for this. So I've got these bricks with the 2 holes in. I'm just going to join 2 together with an axle to give it a bit more strength. Not an axle, a pin, sorry. And then have 2 more pins coming out. So I've got something that looks like that. I'll just hold that together with a 2x2 plate underneath as well. Pretty hard to see. So that can go here. Then I want this thing to have controls, so it at least looks like a minifigure could be powering it. So I've got a profile brick and a 2x3, a little control panel. And what's a control panel without some good old-fashioned levers? And I've got this facing backwards. I imagine that's it in its sort of stowed position. And maybe it turns for use and the man can stand on either side. But I can't have all that intricacy put in because there's just not enough space, sadly, because of the limitations in length, because that drum is pretty big. And then a double width cheese wedge there. I mean, the tolerances on this are absolutely tiny. If you go sort of even a fraction of a plate in any direction, it basically doesn't work. or you can't fit on one of the elements. So there we are. And then the bit that I'm going to connect the drum to the chassis is using these pieces. So they've kind of got the studs on the top and kind of axle hole through the bottom. I'm just going to add a 1x1 plate while it's easy to do so while they're off, and I can put one on that side. And one on that side. Right, so you can see they can be put at an angle to take the drum. But if we stuck the drum on, then obviously it'd be stuck in position and wouldn't turn at all. So the next thing is to make a kind of differential type thing where it can actually spin. And I guess that would be in bag 3. Okay, so part 3 is putting on all the rest of the stuff. Now, before I start getting the drum involved, which is quite big, I'm going to put on all the detail that I want underneath. And the first bit is a bit that I got on the recent brick haul. I know this has got a lorry on it as well as the drum, but it's still a cement mixer sort of logo. And that's obviously from the 7990 set that the drum is from. And I just thought it'd be a shame not to use that somewhere. And I couldn't really think where to put it. So I just thought end on. It kind of looks like a logo with a few more hazard stripes. So I quite like that. Then I thought there'd be some supplementary tools on. So I thought I'd add a shovel and a broom, just for the workmen to use when they stop and actually start work, and maybe even a bucket. So just stick that on. And then just to stop the drum itself scraping on the surface of the bed, I've got a 2x2 tile and 2 1x2 cheese wedge pieces in black, so you won't really see them, but that'll stop any nasty connections. And then when this drum's on here, you need to be able to get the concrete out and use it. So you need some sort of delivery system, and that needs to go here. Now I can't do a really intricate one because of just the tiny space I've got to work with. So what I decided to do was to just have kind of a hint at one, really. And that's with some jumper plates, a couple of these sort of exhaust pieces, whatever they are. Really don't know Technic piece names. Top half of a hinge brick. Oh, push that right in, and then that clips onto one of these sort of snowplow pieces like that. And then this can sort of tilt one way or the other when the cement is coming out. So it's a bit rudimentary, but I think it does the job. And with the other tools, it really does start to look very industrial. So I like that a lot. Right, now we've come to the moment where we're going to start involving the drum. So the drum is 2 halves and clips together, but before we do that, we need to actually get something attached to it. It doesn't have any studs on the inside. It does have a couple on the outside, and I don't just use a small 2x2 round plate just clipped on that, because it might sort of pop off or something, because it is going to be turning all the time. So I want to use something a bit more hardcore to kind of clamp it in place. So what I'm going to do is have this on the inside and this on the outside, kind of going to clamp it in place. So when I put this on, it's going to be rather fiddly, isn't it? It's a bit stronger. That's the plan. So quite hard to do with a camera in front of your face. There we go. So that's hanging out. I'll just stick my finger down there so I can make a good connection. Okay, so that is now nice and strong. Good. So there's our drum, and that's going to essentially end up being connected with that. But the next stage is to build the kind of bit that goes around the corner. And for that, I've got a round plate with a hole in it. And in the middle of that, just so there's no friction, I'm going to put one of these 2x2s with the hole in the middle. There we go. So we've got that sort of thing. And then I need 4 of these quarter turn tiles, just so the connection is good, because that bit there is going to fit now in that recess bit there. So it'll look, yes, seamless. Good, good. So that's that. So then I can actually put that on, and the other side put our second, whoop, forgot to brace the inside that time. Put our second beveled gear. There we go. So that's the bit that's going to connect with that one and turn the whole thing. You can start to see what it's going to look like now. Rather fabulous. So then I'm just going to use another couple of profile bricks just because they're a bit more interesting. Get them the same way. There we are. And a 1x4 plate. Right. So then I can put that on there. But before I do, I noticed that all of the ones that I've got pictures of, the real life ones, all have what looks like a sort of compressor tank, which I suppose is part of the engine that's driving the whole thing round, or I don't really know much about mechanics, but nonetheless, a great big sort of engine-y job that turns the thing. So that's where this pile of parts comes in. And we've got a bracket here, which can support a 2x2 plate. A couple more of these profile bricks just for interest. And then they can have, I have that way actually. There we are. And I can have the other type of bracket going the other way. And then I've got these stickers from, I can't remember what it was. I think it was some agent set. Anyway, I've got 3 of them and they're the right sort of colour palette. So I just thought I'd add a bit more detail on the sort of 2 side drums and the third on the top. I'm sure you've all got technical names for all these parts of big plant machinery, but I have no idea what they're called. And that can clip on there. So it's very snug with this area, and it's going to be very snug there as well. So here comes the moment of truth. Will it fit? So you have to kind of fit all these things on at the same time. I'm just kind of hoping that it's aligned and is going to behave and not catapult parts across the room. Right, I think that's on. But the moment of real truth will be if it goes round. Do you see? It's only gone and worked. So that's very snug at the back with the control area, but it's sort of overhanging like the real life ones. We've got lots of white and blue colouring all the way up this bit. So that's the sort of branding, I suppose. Got the yellow stripe all the way around. Loads of extra tools. Got this sort of funnel bit. We've even got the detail on the end. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. But the most important thing is that it turns. I mean, maybe I'm easily pleased, but that I think is really impressive, especially for my technic ability. So, yeah. So all we have to do really now is put that on my real-life cargo train as part of the Beast's many carriages and see if it goes round when it is careering around Brick Nottingham. Awesome! Right, so here we are in the Lego room, and here is the vehicle of the day, continuing my New Year's resolution to populate my roads. And it's a pretty cool truck, this, no pun intended. It's very big, but it's got great colours with this red, yellow, white and blue scheme. And we've got cool stickers as well. Mr. Chill, ice cream, some good menus on the side, and only the best, as well as this sort of ice cream / lolly on the top, which I like very much. So although it appears to be mainly attracting dog customers at the moment, I like that addition to my city. I can definitely recommend that as a set. But back to today's activity and our cement wagon. I've just added a couple of stickers from 60051, the white fast train. One saying pneumatics, electrics, and the other one saying oil and water, just to give it a bit more detail. So let's put this on our cargo train, which I call the Beast. And where should we put it? How about between the cattle car and the octane tanker? Sounds like a good enough place for it. Pop that there. Now this is the moment of truth when we set the train running and watch it go. So let's get the lights on. Yep. And then off it goes. And off it spins as well. Fantastic. Oh, well, it's clearly fitting underneath the monorail system. Ooh, under that tree. Underneath the castle. And the gym at Sweat. And, ooh, underneath the tram stop and through the station. And you can see that that is going at a very nice turning speed, I think. Very realistic. I mean, one thing I didn't concentrate on was getting the gear ratio exactly right or anything like that. But I think I couldn't have done it much better if I'd tried, because it's spinning at a nice sort of gentle pace. Oh yes, that is going really well. Right, let's get some of the other trains going. So the white train. There we go. The tram. There we go. And the underground. Okay. That's going to be pretty noisy right now. And there's the star of the day. Our new cement wagon. Absolutely fantastic. Well, I'm absolutely ecstatic at how that's come out. I mean, it just adds that extra bit of dynamism to something that's already pretty fantastic and moving and quality. It's a bit slow at the moment, but it's because it's pulling quite a lot, and I've deliberately not set it too fast so we can see the drum turning. But yeah, looking really good. See if the subway train appears. There we are. Yep, it's all go. Let's wait here. Oh yeah, it just is so good. I'm never going to get bored of looking at that cement drum turning. That is absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. A very, very long train. And with the man disguised as a tree at the back of it. Great, what a success! And a quick reminder for those of you who haven't yet voted on my Lego Ideas submission, Fast Food Corner, the details of which and a link are in the description of this video. But that's my submission, that I need 10,000 votes to have the opportunity of making my modular MOC a real-life set. And I'm already over 2,200 votes, and I need 10,000. So 22% of the way there, but I still need a lot more support. So if you could take 2 minutes to register and just give me a quick click, that would be absolutely fantastic and very much appreciated. Well, as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. I hope I don't fall over here, turning in circles and focusing not where I'm standing. But do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing another city update. And I haven't decided on what yet, but I think I'm going to do something else, a small MOC like this, just so I can have a bit of a break from doing big multi-parters. So whatever I get up to, I'm sure it'll be great fun. This certainly has been. So I'll see you then.